Welcome to another episode of Professional Builders Secrets. In this episode, I interview Owen Gardner from Gardner Construction in Sydney, Australia. Owen has been in business for 24 years and he's transitioned all the way from a sole trader carpenter to a full design and construct business model where he has a full in house design team. He talks about the challenges of that journey, the benefits of having a design and construct model, and all the incremental improvements he has made over that time, which has created an extremely successful company with some staff that have stuck around for 14 years. I hope you enjoy the episode. This episode of Professional Builders Secrets is brought to you by Apparatus Contractor Services. Apparatus provides full scope, end to end QuickBooks precision construction accounting and CFO services for residential builders. If you feel like you can't completely trust your weekly and monthly financial reports, or you feel like you're flying blind, Apparatus will rebuild and operate your QuickBooks accounting system and give you precision construction accounting capability you can trust. Learn more at apparatusteam.com or on the APB Rewards partner directory.
I've been building for 24 years now. Back then I had for like 15 people working for me. All you're doing is running around putting out fires and you're making less money. And then you realize it's all about people. Running a good business is all about the right people. You look at these big CEOs who earn this big money or have big companies, and they battle on for years and years and years until one day it happens. And then it's like, oh, this guy was an overnight success. And you look at it as an expensive lesson. And resilience is a huge thing. So you have these points where you're at the high and you're like, we're killing it today. And I've absolutely, I've got lots of clients, I've got lots of money in the bank. And then 2 weeks later, you could be at the lowest of low. The biggest thing for me that really turned our business and made it easier, profitabler is completely understanding your numbers.
Welcome to Professional Builders Secrets, the podcast for building company owners wanting to grow safely and securely. I'm your host, Will Blunt, and today I'm joined by Owen Gardner from Gardner Construction. Welcome to the show. Great to have you on. Funnily enough, you actually could be Matt, and I wouldn't have a clue.
I don't worry, mate. I get called Matt, he gets called Owen. It's not a big deal. I've had it all my life, mate.
For the listeners that don't know, you are in business with your identical twin brother. Is that right?
Certainly are, yep. The only difference is his hair is slightly longer than mine.
Very good to know.
Slightly.
Do you guys have the same haircut though? I can't remember.
Nah, he's got a little bit longer hair.
Okay. Maybe that's one I'll keep in mind. But then he'll turn up with a shaved head next time I see you, and I'll be completely thrown off.
I always just tell people he's the ugly one. So if you just look for the ugly one, I'm the good looking one.
All right. That's good to know. Good to know. Well, thanks for joining us today, Owen. Can you give us a bit of a background on what you guys do as a construction company and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so we do residential construction based in Sydney, eastern suburbs. I've been building for 24 years now. Ups and downs like every construction company over that time frame. And we run a design company also, which is a branch of our construction company. And we're busy and enjoy building, and I love building. I love taking someone from the very start right the way through the design process, right the way through construction. And that's the most satisfying thing about being a builder, I reckon.
So, Owen, tell us a bit more about your background in the building industry and how you got to where you are today.
So I've been building for around 24 years, been designing for about 15 years now. Got into building purely because I like building things from the ground up. Had the ups and downs like every other business, but we're busy. We're based in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, so it's been a fun journey, especially the last few years when we've got to know a bit more about how to run a business rather than just making it up as we go along.
So, have you been Gardner Construction for 24 years?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You must have been pretty young when you started that.
So I foolishly or not foolishly, I don't know, I look back now to my boss, and I left my apprenticeship as soon as I finished it and went out and worked for myself straight away. And I look back now when my apprentices do it to me, and I'm like, yep, I did that to my boss as well. But yeah, it's baptism by fire, right? So you jump in the deep end and you figure out a way to get through it. I used to, and I still do. I use the motto, bite off more than you can chew, and then just find a way to chew it. So, and that's the way I've always done it. So it's been good. Had my hard times and had my good times. So, man, I love it.
Did you ever have moments where you felt like it was too much to chew?
Yeah, I guess sometimes, but never to the point where I felt like not doing it. I've always been this one where if I feel overwhelmed, I'll take a step back and then just go, right, what do I need to do to figure this out? And then just take the time to go, all right, this is what I've got to do and sort it out and work my way through it. I always look at it as though it's a challenge.
Yeah. And you always had your brother in the business, or did that happen later?
No, so he was off doing, so we both did our carpentry apprentices at the same time. So we're both carpentry background. We both did our carpentry apprentice at the same time. He went off and did something else, got out of carpentry for a bit. I kept going through, did my builders and everything, and then worked for myself for a long time. And then in 2010, 2009, he was working for me as a carpenter, just as an employee. And so we decided to join up and make him a partner in the company. And that's when I became an actual company. Before that, I was a sole trader.
Mm.
And 2010 is probably the catalyst when I decided, let's make this a proper go of it. And that's when we formed my company, and that's when he became a partner. And that's we had our moments. I kicked him out of the company a few times, had our arguments, but the joys of working with your family is you get over it pretty quickly. So we'd have a dust up and an argument, and I'd kick him out, and he'd be back the next day and go, "Oh, what about that little dust up? All right, well, good, let's get going."
Oh, yeah. I mean, there must be so many dynamics there. I can't even imagine.
But do you know what it is? Is because I worked for myself for so long, and because as a business owner, you've got to be a control freak, and because I did everything when it wasn't done how I wanted to do it, that's when I blow up. And it took me a few years to pull myself out of that role and of doing everything and just allowing him to do what he does best. And so now we have a really good relationship where he does his thing, I don't touch on his thing, I don't step on his toes, he doesn't step on my toes, and we don't have that clashing anymore and the arguments anymore. So it's once you figured out that role and who does what and not who's doing everything, it become a lot easier. But it's good. It means that we bounce off each other. We have meetings constantly where we're just talking and hashing ideas and come up with ideas together. And it's a family business as well. So both our wives work in the business. My younger brother used to be my apprentice. I got a younger brother,
Mm.
14 years younger. Used to be our apprentice. He's off doing something else now. But yeah, it's had its moments, but it's been a long time since he's been kicked out of the company. I'll tell you now.
That's good. How did you get over being a control freak? Or you
Uh,
still are? You just kind of was
I still am.
it?
Realizing that you can't do everything, and I used to do everything. I used to do absolutely everything. I used to do all the payroll and the accounts and invoicing and estimating and work on the tools every single day. And you just slowly realize that you can't do everything, and you've got to get them good people around you to start taking on them roles. I guess that's what the hardest thing about running a business as well is making sure you get the right people.
Yeah, but that's not easy though, right? I mean, obviously you had your brother and you've had other people in the family, which at least you know you can trust them, you'd hope. But it's not easy to find good people.
No, so back then I had like 15 people working for me. And I was just and you hear the same old story and off 1,000 different builders, no matter where you go, all you're doing is running around putting out fires and you're making less money. You're turning over more money, but you're making less money than what you were when you had yourself and an apprentice and you're on the tools. And then you realize it's all about people. Like running a good business of any sort, whether it's construction, whatever, is all about the right people. And so we went through a bit of a purge when Matty come on board and we got rid of the dead wood and kept the good people. And I've still got people with me now since back in 2010, before 2010, that have been with me for a long time that we just won't let go because they're really good employees. And they're some of my project managers now or office staff. So yeah, it's a balance.
Was that the experience you had? You felt like you were putting out fires, that whole thing you spoke about where, had money coming in, but it wasn't showing up in the bank account, etc.
Oh, it shows up in the bank account, but it goes out
It
just
goes out again, yeah. Doesn't stay in the bank account.
no, it doesn't stay in there long enough for you to admire. Oh, for sure. Yeah, it was constantly all about putting out fires and putting out employees' fires, putting out the poor work that they did, managing clients' expectations, and because it's a really and I talk to young guys about it now. It's that hard transition when you're first starting out and you're getting big enough to needing to put on extra staff, but not big enough to actually pay them properly yet. And so you kind of that point where do I do it myself or do I pay someone to bite the bullet? And I look back now, and honestly, the best thing that you could ever do is bite the bullet and put it on
Mm.
and push yourself to that next level quicker. Otherwise, you're sort of stuck in that limbo for a longer time.
Yeah, that's like a lot of business decisions, right? Like whether or not you're investing in marketing or investing in a new team member or, investing in outside, help, whether it's an accountant or coaching or whatever it is. You're always stretching when you first do it, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So coaching's a prime example. Estimating's another example where you just do it yourself and you don't need a coach. You don't need an estimator because you do it all yourself until you get to that point where you're paying someone to do it and you're going, why did I ever get why did I last for so long without doing this? And why didn't I bite the bullet sooner? Because it means it frees you up to actually, and you read all the books about, it, and the books will tell you, you've got to do it. And if you look at your time and versus you could pay someone else cheaper to do it, but it's a hard thing to start with. It's
Mm.
really hard to go, sure, I'm going to pay someone 100 grand. Where did I get that 100 grand from? I might not even earn 100 grand myself out of after I've paid everyone else out. And until you do it, you stand back and go, oh, yep, should have done it earlier. But
How'd you get to that point though? To where you're confident? Everyone's got to go on their same journey, I think.
how do you get to that point where you're confident? Good question. It's trial and error. Like it's expensive lessons. So I never look at it as a mistake. I always look at it whenever you have something that a client rips you off or you quote a job poorly or something, you look at it as an expensive lesson and it's how well you can ride out of that expensive lesson, whether you can actually weather the storm, and depending on how big that lesson is. What did you go to university or was it just primary school? And where if you can ride it out and get past, then you go, not doing that again, and then you'll figure that you can now outlay that cash to make sure that lesson doesn't happen again. But yeah, to get into that point to understand it's a tricky one.
It's good to hear that because business is pretty messy, right? Like you might look at yourself, 24 years in business, you got a lot of stuff in the right place now. And like from the outside perspective, like you're on a good wicket. But there was a messy period there where you're just trying to figure it out as well.
For sure. And you look at about my trajectory and you think 24 years where I've been doing a long time, but for a good solid chunk of that, and it's the same with everyone. Like they, you look at these big CEOs who earn this big money or have big companies and they battle on for years and years and years until one day it happens. And then it's like, oh, this guy was an overnight success. And you look at it and go, well, actually, he wasn't. It took
Yeah.
him years and years and years and years and lots of failure. Like you can just take Apple, for example, as well, right? Failure until they find something that works, and then you sort of latch onto that. So that's all this is, right? It's just you get a lesson, you learn from it. You hopefully don't get too buried that a client takes you to the cleaners, or you've made a huge mistake. You've got to go back and fix it. And it costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you get past it, and it's super rewarding and it's super satisfying. We're standing back at the end, going, "Yeah, I've worked through it," and it's tough. Like this didn't happen overnight, not even close.
That's the scary part about this industry, I think. In a lot of industries, you could start businesses, fail here or there, whatever. Like it doesn't have a huge impact really, apart from money in, money out. But in construction, like you just mentioned there's a lot of cash going in and out. There's risk. There's all this stuff. Like you're building structures which people are living in, right? So it's a much higher risk industry than others.
Yeah, and the thing with construction is you can operate insolvent for a long time, and as do
Mm.
lots of businesses, because all you're doing is getting the deposit from someone else, which pays off the last client. You can keep rolling that forward for a long time, which is why you get to these big companies that were going bust recently during COVID. And they're like been around for a long time and they've got 20, $30 million on their books. And you're like, how does this company fail? It's because they're operating insolvent for so long. You
Mm.
add that to the mix. Even if you're a small guy, you can operate solvent easily. But you add that to the mix, but then you also add the fact that it's so easy for a client not to pay you. It's so easy
Yeah.
for a client to drag you out. And I use an analogy, and this is probably going off the side a little bit. I use this analogy to clients all the time when they don't pay a bill. It's the only industry where you can get to the end of the job and decide that, hey, you know what? I actually think I might not like it. I'm just going to hold into some money. But you can in construction. So you can't walk into Coles and get a 3 litre milk, take it home and go, I'm just going to pay for 2 liters right now. And I think I'll pay the last liter later. And then, but you can do that in construction, but you can't do it anywhere else. Like as if Coles was for that.
How do you protect yourself against that?
It's communication with the client. We now no longer leave ourselves exposed towards the end of the project. We now give our clients so much more lead time into when we're going to invoice. Hey, you got an invoice coming up in 3 weeks' time. Make sure you're prepped for it. So I remember vividly, I got to an end of a project, and again, this is a lesson, but I got to the end of a project with a client and gave her the final invoice and everything. And she said, I don't feel like I owe you that much money. It was like 20 grand or something. And she gets to the end and she goes, I don't feel like I owe you that money. Can you show me how we owe you that? And so this is after the job's finished and she's living there.
Mm.
So I'm sitting at the kitchen table and I showed her how she owed the money. I showed her all the invoices and all the expense and all this sort of stuff. And then she's like, okay, yep, it all makes sense. I just don't have the money. And at that point there, you got two options. One, take it to court, or B, write it out. And so and to take it to court, you're not going to win. Like you might win in court, but you take it, you're going to lose in lawyer fees. And so there goes your
Yeah,
20
you
grand.
end up losing money anyway. Yeah.
So what I did was I said to the client, all right, sure you can't pay it. Give me some sort of plan that you can pay it off. And so she did. And she was super grateful and she ended up becoming a really big advocate of ours. And so then I took it away. The lesson I took out of that was one, don't wait till the end to show them how they owe the money. Make sure it's really early in the piece. And so that's what we do now. And two, the last bit I took out of that is that because I was nice to her in the end, and you don't have to be nice and get walked over, but I come up with a plan with her, she became one of our biggest advocates. And so she ended up referring us to so many different people that I looked at it from an advertising perspective because we didn't advertise back then. It was just
Cool.
free advertising for us. So yes, she held my
Mm.
money for a little bit. I eventually got all my money. She got an interest-free loan, but the advertising I got out of it and the work I got on from the future, I kind of took that away and went, you know what, there is a silver lining to this cloudy storm.
I mean, you still found a way to get paid, even though the diminishing returns after a while, etc. But yeah, you still found a way to get paid, which is good.
Yeah, and that's one example, but I've been ripped off a bunch of times as well.
Yeah, might be a long podcast if we go into those.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back on track here because you mentioned in our pre-call, but also in your introduction around you being like into design and all that kind of stuff. How did that journey start, and how did you move the company into a design construct model that you mentioned you've got
Mhm.
now?
So I guess the big thing for that was frustration. I used to get plans from a client who'd been told by a designer, this is going to cost you X amount of dollars to build. So we'd go away, do our construction costing. We'd come back and we didn't know at the time they'd been told what it's going to cost from a designer. We'd go do our construction costing and the client would bring me back and say, look, sorry, Owen, this is way over our budget. And I'd ask the question, what other costings have you got? And they say, we've got other costings. They're all the same as yours. And my designer's led me down this path I can't afford to build. And I'd be like, what are these designers telling people? They're telling them how much this cost and they're just making stuff up. So out of frustration, I was like, well, I've just spent 3 or 4 or 5 days of my life quoting a project that I never had a chance of getting because the client never had the money. So I got into design. I thought, you know what, I'm going to get into design here. So we started by, as most design and construction companies do, as in they'll get an outsourced drafty, an
Mm.
outsourced design, and they'll pair up with them, which a lot of people do. They'll pair up with them. And we did that for a couple of years, 18 months, a couple of years. And then I found that the designers were sometimes cutting us out, not meaning to, but dealing directly with the homeowners. So I just wanted a bit more control. So I employed an architect in my office so we could manage the design process in-house. So then I could manage the costing, the construction costing throughout the process. So what we're presenting to a client is actual real costing and not just
Mm.
a guess or a square meter from a designer who has no real idea, no real building experience idea. And so then that then turned into one designer, then turned into two designers, turned into five designers. So we've currently got five full-time architects in our office, and we are a true design and construct company. I split the company in 2012, so I have a separate design company, a separate construction company
Okay.
for the reason that we don't build everything that we design because we design more than what we can actually build. So what that does for a client, it's really from a client's perspective, it allows us to send out to tender for a client. So we have a true design company and a separate construction company. So we get to pick and choose what we want from the design company whenever we want to fill our capacity, the jobs we like, the locations we like, or the clients we like, and at the costing we like, because we don't compete on costing. So we simply say, this is our cost. You can send it out for tender, but we're not competing. Most people, we have a really high build rate if we're designing them. We build probably 90 to 95% of the stuff that we design. And the other stuff's really coming down to timing or the fact that we just don't want to do it.
So if someone comes to you who's been referred or however they find you with their own design, will you work with them?
We do. We still do other designs, other clients' designs, but we're very picky and choosy on it. So it's got to be something that we really want to build. It's got to be something that it looks good or it's different or it's something that it would interest us. It's not just going to be your standard stock standard build that they're trying to get the cheapest builder out there. We wouldn't bother
Yeah.
competing. We don't need that. It's got to be interesting to us.
Well, that often happens, right? Like if it's almost a red flag when someone brings a design and they're probably shopping around a bit, right?
Yeah, and that's the one of the reasons why we hardly do that because it's you don't know how many people they're quoting for. You don't know who to
Yeah.
send it out to. You don't know where their bottom line is. At least with the design perspective, I know where their budget is, so I
Yeah.
know we're quoting, and I know we're quoting, irrespective of their budget. Our construction team costs it as it is, so there's no bullshit along the way. There's nothing made up.
So does that mean you spend like yourself spend more time in the design company because that's like your thing, or you a bit of both, or
So I guess my role is I wouldn't say primarily design. So my role is really I take everyone through the design journey and then I
mm,
take them through the construction contract finance journey. And then my role is really high level that I make sure that from a costing perspective, budgets and finance is all on board and make sure the clients know what they're up for from a costing perspective throughout the job. I then hand over to the construction team and my brother who heads up the construction team and he does the day-to-day construction. So he sorts out all the project managers and sorts out the client's day-to-day questions about how it's going to be built and what it's going to look like. And if he needs to get more drawings done from the design team, he'll go and organize that. So yeah, so I oversee the whole operation. My brother oversees the day-to-day operation for the construction side.
does that mean like if you get a new inquiry, you're taking them from start to finish, or like do you have someone else who brings them and then once the contract's signed, you take it through the rest of the journey, or
No, I generally take clients from the start. So
okay,
I'll the client phone call,
yeah,
site, whatever, and then walk them through the whole process, whether it be design or straight to construction. I'm usually the first guy and the last guy they speak to.
okay. How did you get to a point with those defined roles with even just you and your brother? I know you've got a bunch of other people and defined roles in your company, but how did you get to that point and how did you document it so it was really clear it's like this is my thing and this is his thing?
One of the things that you're always told, make yourself an organization chart and you do it, and you've got yourself at the top and it branches down, all this sort of stuff, and you kind of don't really do much more with it. Coaching is one of these things for us, and I don't want to preach on about coaching, but I'm a big advocate for it. It's one of these things that they give you these little things and say, what about if you just finish that little bit there? Because you've done, most people do bits of it, they don't do all of it. You just finish that little
Yeah.
bit. And then it allows you to go back to your workers because you've got a clearer plan of what they need to produce for you. And they also have a clearer plan of what they need to produce for you. So then you've got better workers instantly because they know where their work lies and they know what they've got to do. So it's really just those little bits and pieces that they need to do to sort it out. Sorry about that phone.
That's right. Someone wants to build a house. Talk to me about the benefits of having a design and construct model under one roof. What have you found from that?
It's control. It's about quality control of the designs. And you speak to any builder, and any builder will tell you that they've got plans from an architect or plans from a drafty or plans from someone else, the homeowner drawing himself, and it looks good on a bit of paper, but you just can't build it for whatever reason, or it doesn't align with the structure or something. Designing from a build perspective, I get to look at a plan and go, that's not going to work, or
Yeah.
that's going to cost the client a lot of money, and you're going to spend $50,000 that's going to be buried in the ground. What about if we changed it like this? And so you can find you get quality control on the design, but quality control on the costing. And it means that the client gets more value for their money. You spend the money where you see it, not where you don't want to see it, because then everyone's looking for that resale perspective. So at least that way you can design it so that they get the most bang for their buck and they can see what they're spending their money on.
Yeah, from a consumer's point of view as well, like if I come to you with a design and then you go, you can't build it for the budget you thought, it's just really deflating. Whereas if I'm from you at the very start and you're like, well, actually, you can't do it this way, but if we do it this way, it would be within budget. And you're like, okay. And then you're on that journey the whole way. So you're more bought into the whole process.
100%. And that's why, from a true design and construct model, that we tend to build most of the places we design because by the time they go through that whole process with you, you've built up this whole bunch of trust with them
Yeah.
that they completely believe and agree with everything you're telling them because the stats don't lie, the numbers don't lie because you're looking at it from a cost perspective. You're telling them things that from a design perspective, and we look at multiple different options all the time. We always ask clients to explore all the options because you don't want to sit there and die wondering. You don't want to get
Yeah.
to the end and go, oh, what about if we thought about doing it this way? And what about if you thought about that? And I always tell this to clients, and everyone's got that one smart ass friend who comes in there and goes, oh, you should have done this, or you should have done that. And with our clients, we say to them, you can turn around and say, you know what, we thought about it, but that was going to be 10 grand more than what we wanted to spend. And they can have the information for them. So all with us, and I use this with clients all the time, it's all about as much information as possible to make informed decisions.
Yeah. What type of contracts do you use?
With fixed price contract.
Okay, so I guess that I thought you must because that's what we recommend. But also, I want to understand through the design process, if you're looking at all the detail of every little bit and piece and the costings and all that kind of stuff, how do you then dovetail that into a fixed price contract?
Because we do actual construction costing throughout the design process, so we don't offer an estimate. I
Mm,
went to a job today where it was a potential design job. They decided to go with a different designer. He's now rung me back up and said, look, they went to another design construct model company. They got blown out of the budget, blown out of the water. And it's like, can you cost it? I'm like, but they should. He said what they did was they gave him an estimate at the start and they gave him actual costing after they got their approvals. And I'm like, the problem is that an estimate is just a guess. It's
yeah.
just somewhat a calculated guess, but until you do it properly and do all the numbers properly, that's why we do actual construction costing right at the start. And yes, we spend a lot of time with our estimators, but we know that every single design we present to a client, the client can have 100% confidence. If they turn around and said, oh, we want to build this plan tomorrow, we can build that plan and not have to worry about elevating our price for 20, 30% because we were only guessing or estimating the first time.
But you still charge for that process?
No, we don't. We don't charge for our estimates.
Right. Okay.
And I know it's a big thing from a coaching perspective. They're always telling you charge for your estimates and everything. But we look at it from a part of our marketing budget.
Okay.
We roll that into and say, well, if we're spending X amount of dollars in estimators a year, that's what we'd potentially spend to get more clients in because we would lose jobs if we're charging for that. So it's a carrot for a client to stick with us through that process, get into the design process because they're going to get free estimating throughout the process.
Do you qualify clients in other ways then to make sure that you feel like you're going to all that work for someone that's got budget, etc.?
100%. So I always find out the client's budget before we start. And the one caveat I tell the clients is that yes, builder technically knows your budget before you're starting, but our estimators don't. So our estimators aren't told the client's budget because our estimators are purely looking at what's on the plan in front of them. And we want them to do that because we don't want them to be biased because we don't want them to push the price up or down. We just want them to quote what's real. So we know it's real. So yes, we do qualify them. We do make sure that if they're coming to us and they say, look, I've got $1 million budget and I'm wanting to build a 5-story house on the cliff face of Vaucluse, I'd be looking at going, I just tell them straight up, your budget's just not going to match. And what I tell people is because we've built so many houses all around the country, I just tell people what a similar house that I've built for that kind of cost range would be. So I'm not telling them what their house would be. I'm just saying this is what you can get for that kind of money. That's what we've built before. And this is where I'd expect yours to be. But knowing that there's so many different selections and choices and
Yeah.
finishes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so they'll check out your portfolio and you'll be like, you'll place them somewhere in the ecosystem of what you think they're going to build. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Have you run into any challenges with the design and construct model or smooth sailing from day one?
No, no, no. Definitely challenge. Part of the challenge for us originally was when you first start to actually do it properly and rather than go with a. So originally when I first started, we had the problems using drafties. When you first start, you just don't have enough work for someone full time, so you've kind of got to make up work for that person, and then also them designing something and then speaking with the clients and then not thinking about it from a construction perspective or so yes, there is things like that. So it's just a matter of continually reminding the employees. But I've got one of my designers who's been with me for 14 years now. So she was one of my first designers, and she's amazing.
Wow.
I'll never let her go. But it's again, it's about making sure you've got the right people. And I've had the wrong people sometimes. I've had to let people go, but it's all about making the right people. But I guess the hard part is really quality control, making sure you still check everything. And I still check everything because I'm a control freak.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm interested to find out how you retain a staff member for 14 years. You must be doing something right there.
We actually really look after our staff. We spend a lot of time doing team building events. We've taken all of our crew, our whole staff before down to a snow trip. We do a couple of events a year. We do a monthly lunch with our workers in the office. So we sit down and just sit there and just chat for a month, for an hour. because we found in the office, especially, everyone just does their work, sits and stares at a computer. So I do, and I am conscious of making sure that we do think about and care about our employees' well-being, and
Mm.
obviously provide a decent workplace for them to come to. Otherwise, they wouldn't stick around.
Yeah. Cool.
And I'm a nice guy.
That only takes you so far. Yeah, people want other things out of work, but you've obviously got a good formula there. One thing we spoke about before the call, actually, before the interview, was you mentioned like over this long period of time that you've been working in construction, I asked you like what's the thing that's, had the most success for you? And you reflected on the fact that it was just like small incremental improvements and changes over a long period of time. Can you talk to me about that mindset and what you feel is like the key to that?
Yeah, and like we touched on just briefly before, it's all about the lesson, and it's all about finding out what happened from that little mistake you made and figuring out what that lesson is out of it, and
Mm,
just chipping away constantly. Like we talked about before about clients not paying. I remember a client didn't pay for whatever reason they decided to come up with. And then I looked at it like, well, what did I do wrong in this situation? And part of that was the contract I had at the time wasn't airtight. So, and they knew I was young, and so then they take you to the cleaners on that. So then you just slowly just do little bits and pieces, little bits and pieces. One of the biggest things that I found in working and understanding it and staying this way for a long time is really about your numbers. It's really about understanding what those numbers are and constantly evaluating them and constantly drilling down on them, because it's such an important part of business. It's such an important part of understanding where you sit. It's not just the matter of the money sitting in the bank account and going, oh, it's a good day today. We've got a couple of
mm,
grand in there. It's really about understanding how that money is and whose money it is. Because you can
yeah.
look at money in the bank and it's not yours. Could be the tax man's.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great point, especially in this industry, right? Like it's just there's a lot of cash going in and out.
Yeah, yeah. But it's really hard to pinpoint that one little thing that catapults. It's so many different things that really gets you to the point where you understand what you're doing. And I'm still learning. I'll never forget when I was an apprentice and my TAFE teacher at the time said to me, he said, you can learn from anyone, even an apprentice. And I take that with me all the time. And I tell everyone that all the time because I still strongly feel about that. I can meet you for the first time and you've never been in construction, but you've been to university and you've learned something, then just goes, that's something we could change in our business. And it's the smallest little thing and it has a snowball effect.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like there's a couple of things. Number one, resilience sounds critical to being able to get as far as you've got because those things where like you get ripped off by a client or something, I mean that could break the average person, right? But the other part is just having that mindset of continual learning and growth, right?
Yeah. Never letting it resilience is a huge thing, never letting it beat you up, even though it does beat you up. I talk to people about this around the country because we do building jobs around the country. I talk to other builders about it, especially young builders, and I talk about the highs and the lows of building. So you have these points where you're at the high and you're like, we're killing it today, and I'm absolutely, I've got lots of clients, I've got lots of money in the bank. And then 2 weeks later, you could be at the lowest of low, and
Mm,
you're just like, this is shit. I'm leaving this. I'm out of here. And the longer it's got, me doing this, the peaks and troughs are still there, but they're really just gradual. So your peaks aren't as far away from your troughs because you've got more of an understanding of how you got to the peak or how you got to the trough. And that's the biggest thing, is really making sure that you don't let it beat you up. You don't let it just pile on top of you, and you look for the solution. There was something I listened to recently. You look for that little key inside that you just have that lesson that you can find, and you just go, right, that's one thing I'm going to change.
so what you're saying is near the beginning you have big peaks, but big troughs as well. These days it's a little bit more boring, but it's a bit more stable.
Yeah, it's because you know where it's coming, so you can kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. I do some TV building for a bunch of TV shows, and whenever I set up a new builder in a different state or somewhere, I always chat to them about the process for building. So I
Mm,
just finished a show down in Melbourne in December, and it's a really short time frame. So it's a 6 week build, big build, as in for a 6 week period. Spend 2 million plus on the build, 3-story house, blah blah blah. And I said to the builders at the start, I sit them down. I'm like, I've done this many times. I've been on your side of the coin. I was project managing, so I said I've seen this from all angles. I said you're going to have these times when you think you're really ahead of schedule and you're right at the top, and then you have these times where you're like, there's no way we're finishing it. I guarantee you, as long as you keep on top of it and you can ride out the troughs, you'll get there. You've just got to keep working through it. And I look at that as the same way as I look at business. It's exactly the same,
yeah.
just in a really short time frame.
Yeah. No, it's a nice metaphor. All right. You mentioned coaching a couple of times. Talk to me about why you see value in coaching.
Coaching is a huge one for me. It's and my wife says this to me sometimes. She goes, "Why do you keep doing that for?" Like, she goes, "Tell me one thing, one big thing that they've ever done for you." And I'm like, "It's not one big thing. It's these tiny little things." And if I sit there and I think about it for an hour or two, I rattle off all these tiny little things. Again, that's like the snowball effect that ends up getting to the point where you are. But it's not like this silver bullet where they go, "All right, we're going to make sure that we're going to do this for you. In 3 months' time, you're going to be sailing around a yacht in Monaco because you've just made an absolute ton of money."
Mm,
About, right, we're going to make you better by making you take a look back at yourself and fix up the small little things and just chipping away at you. And then to the point where it just kind of explodes and you go, holy shit, look what we've just done. And that's what coaching is so important. It's really, they keep you responsible. They're not like your parent. They're not going to sit there and yell and scream at you if you don't hit a benchmark or a goal or a task that you said you do, and you're a grown adult. It's just really it really is, though, like, some people do think that. They think that, "Oh, this guy's gonna keep me responsible because he's gonna give me these things, and if you don't do them, I'm gonna get a smack over the wrist," but they're not, like, it's your business. They're just trying to help you. But I find it's super important to have that outside person that can take a look on the outside, an unbiased look, and go, "Right, let's have a real look at it. Let's really look at where you're things are." So one of the big things I've been coaching for a while now, that we start when we started doing it, we're looking at numbers, and I've always looked at my numbers, but never to the point where we actually looked really, really in detail with them. And then we started looking into detail because I've always tracked them, but I never actually looked at them in detail. And I started looking into detail and I'm like, oh, that's strange. What about that? So we looked at this one little number, and then we're like, okay, that makes up carpentry, which is 3 or 4 different categories. Let's start breaking it down to see what of those 3 or 4 categories is actually costing us the money. And then we end up figuring it out that there's this one item that was just costing us money, and it was across the board, across all these projects, and it was just such a small thing, and when you figure it out, you're like, "Holy shit, it's just across the board, it's changed it an immense amount." So, I'm really a strong believer and advocate for coaching, whether it be paid coaching or dealing with an older builder or just having a conversation with other builders. It's all coaching, right? It's all discussion. It's all finding out what other people are doing.
So Andy's never slapped you across the wrist and told you surprising.
No, he hasn't. No, he's really good, Andy. Like Andy's really he puts a little worm inside my brain and just gets me to think about something. And 2 days later, I'm like, oh right, let's have a look at that. And then you go back and chat to him in the next meeting, and you go, I just figured this out. And Andy goes, yeah, remember we spoke about that. And you kind of like subliminal messaging drops in there sometimes. But that's all he's doing is looking at it from a unbiased
Yeah.
opinion. That's you're not because you get so stuck in your business and so stuck in the day to day. It's just kind of like, let's look at it from an outside perspective.
Cool. All right. Well, let's round this out. What's one final piece of advice you'd like to give to anyone listening today, the builders out there, about running a better company?
One final bit of advice. I really think the biggest thing for me that really turned our business and made it easier, profitable is completely understanding your numbers,
Yeah.
really getting a real drill down on that. And that doesn't mean looking for every single little cent. It's just going in there and drilling down of where your money's spent, what's costing you your time. And I guess the last little sort of add on to that is the right staff.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really good staff goes such a long way, and holding on to them.
I mean, we've been speaking for 40 odd minutes now. I reckon you've given hundreds of small incremental little things that people could implement. But if you summed it up to numbers, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, if anyone takes anything from that, it's like, especially if you're new, is really about understanding the numbers before you go into anything.
Mm.
You can charge for quotes all you want, but if you're charging for a quote and your quote's still wrong, then you've just made $1,000 on your quote. Whatever you're charging for your quotes, but you still lose money in the build. It's pointless anyway. So it's really understanding what those numbers are, and software's a big thing as well. Like that's also one of them things that you go back to at the start and go, well, yeah, do I need it? No, but is it easy? Yes, but it's a big expense. So some of them things you look back and go, I should have done it sooner. But yeah, numbers and employees are probably the biggest things for me.
What software do you guys use?
I use so much software. I do.
What are the main ones?
We use Build a Trend for our project management software. I use Plan Swift for our takeoffs. We use Cordels. I'm developing a new software for our estimating for the company in New Zealand. We use Build a Price in New Zealand as well for other stuff, for our financial stuff. We use Zero. We use Dex. We use Deputy for our scheduling. They all benefit in different ways because I'm such a control freak about how I want stuff to look and how it needs to
Mm.
fit into what we need. No one program does everything that I need yet. So if I was a smarter person and I knew how to code, I might code the perfect software. But until then, I'll just get lots of software.
With AI, mate, coding's all about prompting these days, so maybe you can soon enough.
Well, I've got to find time to do that actually. So
Well, I mean, you should just hire someone really, like you said, so
that's it.
to do that. Never mind. Well, that's another conversation. Oh, and thanks so much for coming on the show today. I've really enjoyed this chat. Tons of value in there for other builders as well about the journey you've been on, and I really appreciate your mindset to growth, but also sharing your journey too.
Well, thanks, Will. Thanks for the chat. Hopefully, I didn't waffle on too much and go off on too much of a tangent.
Not at all. It was cracking. So thank you.
No worries, mate.
Also, a big thank you to our listeners wherever you are in the world. If you like the show today, please subscribe to Professional Builders Secrets on your platform of choice. And if you're feeling generous, leave us a review. But until next time, have a great day.